So in this video, we are going to talk about some examples how we are worse off after the third track project than before. Some things have been improvements, a lot of things have been improvements, but some things have been worse, and this is a classic example of this. So, as everybody was going back from the Cricket World Cup, and no notice from Nice Bus, because they had a shuttle going to Westbury. I don't know if they diverted it to Hicksville as a result of that. There was no information from them at all. No service advisory that I could find that, because Nice Bus has a shuttle. So if we go to Nice here, you'll see Cricket World Cup. Let's see, I don't even have it on the thing here, actually. Passenger info. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. They have a shuttle service that goes to and from the Westbury station. All right. This is the shuttle service here that they have. All right. They have. So it goes to Westbury, basically. So at the time this is going on, there's a disabled train at Mineola, or it says disabled train near Mineola. Maybe it wasn't exactly at Mineola. I'm not sure exactly where it was. But the problem is you don't have island platforms. And this is a big problem. So I'm not sure exactly if the train was at Mineola or near Mineola. But for some reason, they felt the need to bypass Westbury, Carle Place, and Mineola because of this disabled train. So we're going to go to the maps now and show you. I'm not sure where the disabled train was, but if it was near Mineola, I mean, this is the part of the problem is when they did this project, I think they took out these switches. Yeah, they took them out. There used to be a switch right here in Carle Place. They took them out, and they relocated that switch. It's called Nassau, one of the Nassau interlockings, to over here. But I don't understand why they couldn't have had the train stop at Carle Place in Westbury and then use this switch right here, which would skip Mineola, but at the very least, it would have allowed trains to stop at Carle Place in Westbury, especially Westbury. But they didn't even try to do that. So perhaps the train was more like over here. But if it was west of this interlocking, them not bothering to have those trains stop at Mineola are ridiculous. Because they could have, if it was. I'm not sure which train it was that was disabled. Let's see if we can find out. It does not say which train was absolutely disabled or not. It doesn't give much information here on this notice. And you notice a big epic fail here. It says Ronkonkoma Branch and Port Jefferson westbound trains are bypassing Westbury, Carle Place, and Mineola due to a disabled train near Mineola. Transfer at Jamaica for eastbound service to those stations. But it says westbound trains are bypassing Westbury, Carle Place, and Mineola, not eastbound trains. So if it's westbound trains, then people would have to go east to Hicksville and then take a train back west. So somebody screwed up there. All right? But whatever the case is, they could have used these switches to serve Mineola. And in fact, they could have used these switches to serve Mineola because you go over here, switch over here, and then there's another switch here, and they just have to stop on the opposite side. But no, they don't do that. They just bypass Mineola completely because there's no... And this is the problem because if they did this, what I'm suggesting they do, it would have tied up the eastbound trains. And they don't want to do that because that would make the delays even worse. But had Mineola had an island platform, you could clearly see that there was space for one here. You could clearly see that there was space for one. Had we had an island platform, the trains would have been able to stop at Mineola on the middle track. But by leaving an island platform out of the Mineola station when they redid it, and this is another example of what I've been talking about, you are going to have service problems at Mineola whenever a train gets stuck at Mineola. So if the train was stuck here, then they're going to bypass on the middle track. If the train is stuck going eastbound on the local track, they're going to bypass on the middle track, and everybody in Mineola is screwed. That's what they do. Now, the only other thing they could have done was put like bridge plates in, and they used to do this, and they don't just screw people in Mineola. You hear all the time they're skipping Woodside and Forest Hills in Queens because of some problem, all right? Because, those stations also don't have island platforms. If we go all the way over here and look at these stations here, you'll see that, again, the railroad just doesn't There's no room for an island platform here. It's not like Mineola, but they used to have these plates that used to open up so you could cross over a track. Let's say a train is stuck here, all right? People could get on a train on this track by accessing a plate that would go over the track over here or something. But they don't do that anymore. They don't care. They don't care about leaving people stranded anymore because it's just that's a Queens issue. I'm talking more about Mineola here. And as far as the switch work they're doing, by the way, the switch work they're doing is actually over closer to White Park. So I don't think they're even replacing the switch at Floral Park. So we're going to go through another weekend of reduced mainline service for what? Nothing really much to show for it. I don't know why they're doing it. But whatever the case is, they could have had... let me look at this switch here and see how this works. So they could have had... Again, they could have had the trains... If there's a wet disabled... I'm thinking it's an Oyster Bay train. Possibly. That was disabled westbound, perhaps. Perhaps it was an Oyster Bay train that was stuck here, or the diesels are probably breaking down, or it could have been whatever the case is. If the train is stuck at Mineola here, then you could have had trains serve this track. It would have caused delays. You could have at least had one or two trains stop there, instead of just telling people to take Nice Bus, which is what they wound up doing, actually, here. In one of the notices, they said it. It doesn't say it here, but it did say it earlier, that take the 22 or 24. And we all know how bad the service is on those routes, as you saw in my other video. It doesn't say that here in this notice. But see, there's Matt saying, so there are delays and cancellations. And then there's another thing here, due to train with equipment trouble at Hicksville. That's something else entirely. So it looks like a Port Jefferson train was delayed at Hicksville due to equipment trouble. I'm wondering if that was the train that wound up breaking down at Mineola, perhaps. Maybe that's what wound up happening. But whatever the case is, if they want to get around this problem, if we go over here, yeah. Can you switch from this track back to the middle to cross over? Yes, you can. So they put all these switches in. You can see they put these switches in so trains could cross over in the event of a disabled train in Mineola. But they're not doing that. They're just taking the easy route out, which I knew they would. I told you this would happen. I told you this would be an example of how we were much worse off. But again, if, as I said before in the beginning of the video, if the train was stuck west of this interlocking here, then they could have served Carle Place in Westbury. So I don't understand why they didn't do that. They just wanted to screw everybody. I mean, that's the only other thing I think of. They just wanted to screw people. This is a good opportunity for the MTA to stick it to people going to the Cricket World Cup. You need to take the South Shore line, because the main line is a bad choice. It's a bad choice. When you want to take the railroad, take the South Shore. Don't come to the middle of the island. This is an area that's, not an area that's going to be important. So, all these people here at Westbury were screwed because of that. And a really unfair situation, again. And just an outrage. But, it's not surprising because this whole area is destined for ruin. And so, the next part of this video, and in the next part of the video, I'm going to talk about how Mineola's worse off. Because, all right, you have this here. You used to have Main Street used to cut across the tracks. All right, but they got rid of that grade crossing. I understand why the grade crossings had to go. They're dangerous. All right, I get it. But again, the way when they did this, by closing off Main Street now, people can't go through from Old Country Road, and all the businesses on Main Street are suffering, and that's why Main Street is a ghost town and it's dead. All these businesses here are suffering because they cut this whole area off. And then when they built this is what you're going to see in the next part of this video, is when they built this tunnel, this tunnel which doesn't have a sidewalk. And they had room to build this wider. They had room to build this wider. They needed to acquire a little more property over here. But there was already a building here that they knocked down. There used to be a building in this spot. All right, there was room to make this wider with a sidewalk and safer. But instead, what they do is they take what was a crossing that used to be accessible, right? So this is the tunnel, right? You're going to see that coming up. But because I walked through it tonight, because I have every right to walk through it because we used to have a crossing here. So if we go back to August 2019, you'll see we used to have a. All right, Google, stop doing that. We used to have a grade crossing here and a sidewalk. It was an accessible way to cross, and now you replace that with something that's inaccessible. That is actually illegal. I don't know how the MTA gets away with this, but again, this is an area where very powerful people are ruining this area on purpose, and you're going to see in this video again more examples of it. You can't, there used to be a crossing here where you could cross. So this is another example of, in some ways, we were better off before the third track project. In some ways, we were better off because I could just go right across. I didn't have this problem. We had a great crossing, but now you've got this tunnel that doesn't have a sidewalk. It's also got a 10% grade, which is steep. But we're going to walk through. I know people have tormented me on it. I have every right to walk through the tunnel because it's against the law. I don't know how the MTA somehow gets away with this, to take a pedestrian accessible crossing of railroad tracks and replace it with something that's not pedestrian accessible. That is actually against the law. I don't know how the MTA got around that, but if they can do it, then I can walk through here because I have every right to. For those who have a problem with it, too bad. You can see we're walking through again. It's not like there's that much traffic, so I'll walk through if I feel like it. Today I feel like walking through it because it's warm and I don't feel like walking 5-10 minutes out of my way to cross that Main Street. It's ridiculous. It's dead anyway. There's nobody here. And this here is very dangerous. So you imagine you're coming up with from a car. There's no sight lines. You can't see your traffic from your right. I don't know how they got away with building something like this, but like I said, it's just another example of third track projects just being worse for our area. I mean, honestly, there was enough room for them to put a sidewalk in. They could have done it properly because they knocked this building down. There was room to make this wider. They did it like this on purpose to screw with us. And like I said, Mineola is one of those towns that is on a red line list. So, it's on a red line list. So, and that's what it is. They don't even have, there's a walk sign here. Didn't even change. But here you go. Yeah, look at the grass they're not even taking care of here. Trash. I'm going to have to brighten the video because it's very dark here. You got trash. You got all kinds of neglect all around here. All kinds of neglect. It's all, like I said, this is all part of the plan for this area. By treating it worse, people don't want to live here. People don't want to come here. And people remember, hey, we're going to go to the South Shore where things are treated better. Businesses will go there. People will go there. This area is just going to be left for ruin. Just because. And it's safe to say that the cricket tournaments have not helped this area at all one bit. See the overgrown grass. I'll have to brighten the video. It's very dark here in Mineola. But, yeah. This is what we go through. So, there you go. Unfortunately, this is an area that is, just destined for ruin. It's just, This whole area here is they just want to redline this whole area and take care of the people on the South Shore because, again, those South Shore towns are, certain demographic. When you look at all these towns, Hicksville, Newcastle, Westbury, Carle Place to some extent, Mineola, New Hyde Park, Garden City Park, Flora Park, they're all diverse areas. None of them are more than 70% white. All right. So, and it's still some of these towns are majority white, but it's a diverse area. It's a diverse area, this area. Whereas the South Shore, you have all these white finance professionals in all these towns, and so they get all taken care of in Rockville Center and Lynbrook and Merrick and Belmore and Wantagh, Seaford and Massapequa, and people going to this Cricket World Cup here at Eisenhower Park are going to remember this fiasco. And they're going to remember it, and the next time they want to go to this area to do something or go out to Long Island, you're like, no, this is such a hassle. You want to go to Long Island? Let's go to Rockville Center. Let's go to the South Shore. It's easier. It's better. It's more walkable. It's more pedestrian friendly. That's where people want to go. They don't want to deal with this. And in the future, I'm going to make a video showing you a map of pedestrian activity in the coming week. So you want to stay tuned for that. About Long Island, and you'll see that the South Shore has much more pedestrian activity, and there are a lot of areas in the Mid-Island that are like black holes because of crime and because of walkability issues. Again, people want to live in walkable communities. There's no place in this area here that's walkable. And the whole railroad project made things worse. I'm not saying, look, the main line as it was had a lot of problems, but it should have been done the right way. And you know how I feel it should have been done. Should have been an elevated structure like the Babylon branch. More property would have needed to be acquired. But the advantage of doing the third track project the way I would have had it done, all right, would have been a lot better than what we have right now. Yes, it would have required acquiring property and it would have costed money. But here's the thing, all right, we would have bought the property along Carter, along either south or north of the tracks, all right, and we would have constructed a whole new elevated structure the whole way out, all right, and it would have been, we could keep it at 3 tracks, all right, but it would have been an elevated structure, and it would have been built alongside the existing main line, and it would not have disrupted the main line at all. We would not have had any shutdowns. It would have been done like they did the Babylon branch. All right, look at the Babylon branch elevation project. All right, one branch elevation. I'm talking about. This is what should have been done when we redid the main line. You can clearly see here that these are the temporary tracks they built on the Babylon branch. They built temporary tracks. I guess we could have done it that way too. And then the new elevated structure would have been built right next to it. That's the way it should have been. Yes, it would have costed more, but it would have been done right. We now have to live with the mistakes here in all the mainline towns. We have to live with the mistakes of this project for many years to come that will continue to haunt and cost our area dearly in terms of lost business and disruption to people's lives. So I'm sticking by that. I'm standing by that. If you're going to do it, you got to do it right. And if you cut corners and you don't do it right, then people are going to suffer. And the Babylon branch will continue to be a superior line on the Long Island Railroad because of the mistakes that this project has made. All right? And that's all I'm going to say. Yes, we're better off that it's complete than we were before, but in some ways we're worse off. And the mistakes of this project will continue to cost us and make our area less desirable than it could have been.